We have a great guest joining us because, well, she has covered the Sixers for some 24 years, I believe. Was there when it all started, Comcast Sportsnet in 1997. And she's been around the NBA for, I guess, 30 years. So she knows it all. Let's bring her on. You know her. You love her. It is her 17th time on the show, believe it or not. It's Dei Lynam. Do you know Boop?
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody
but
knows
like,
Boop.
Given the,
of course.
Given the
Welcome
given
to the apple
stats
doesn't far fall from the basketball tree show, D.
This is true, Boop. This is true. But given the stats of 24 years and 30 years of the NBA, it's starting to make me feel a little up there in years.
Not
you 30-year-olds.
Dee, it was great seeing you at 97.5's Fan Fest in September. That was awesome. And let's get right into it. The first question everybody wants to know, Dee, how was your golf today?
I did not get to play today.
Oh,
Work is getting in the way.
Such a beautiful day, too.
It was, but I'm teaching a couple of classes, and one of them was an 8-week course, and they had their final exam on Monday, and so those grades are due.
I got
so
you.
I had to forego golf, and there was a lot going on with the Sixers, and I had to do some editing. Yeah, so
something going on with the
golf
Sixers. It is opening night, and we got to talk right off the bat about Ben Simmons. We're not going to talk the whole time about number 25, but what is the latest? Is he ever going to play another game for the Sixers? Are they just going to keep suspending him, every other day, or what's going to happen here?
Yeah, I think how it unfolds remains a little bit to be seen, but I don't believe he'll ever put on a uniform that says Sixers again. That I think is pretty certain. I think in terms of what their options are of how they want to handle this, if you send him home and you don't want him around the team, period, then you're paying him. And so what they did the other day is allowed. And they can do that on a behavior basis. Friday would be the next opportunity. And I think Doc kind of laid the groundwork, which I'm assuming is the organization's standpoint. We will always welcome him back. And so I think he will have the opportunity to show up at shoot around for Friday's game. Now, because he hasn't played, if he shows up and he actually is a willing participant because he doesn't want to get knocked that kind of $330,000 again for Friday night's game, he wouldn't have to play in the game. He'd have to just be a willing participant in the shoot around. I don't even think that will happen. I do think the Sixers will play the dance at least Friday, and before they send him home for good at some point. And I do that based on talking to other general managers who, you can do this. And then eventually, if you give him what your guidelines are and he doesn't want to abide by them, now you can suspend him for, like, say, 10 days. And then that goes to an arbiter at some point. And I think the organization would feel good enough about their chances of winning that battle with an arbiter. If it came down to that. But I do think they will play the dance a little longer of welcoming him back. Let's just say, Chet, if they win tonight, there's no reason to not, we're fine without you, but make it more uncomfortable for him. Why do we have to pay? Right? And so I think that's the way you do it.
Boop.
D, how important is it to the team that the coach is a well-seasoned coach when something like this comes up, who's been around the block for decades, as opposed to if they had maybe gone out and gotten like a Jay Wright when they needed to hire a guy who doesn't quite have 30 years of dealing with NBA players when something like this pops up?
Sure. Well, I think all people, coaches, how you do your job or how I would approach something that's difficult in the job. I think your personality plays a fact, and then your resume plays a fact. I think a lot of people look to who Doc was as a player, and he would be the kind of player that would have gotten in the face of somebody who is ignoring their responsibilities. He was also a player who held out on a contract. And I thought that was very good of him to be forthcoming about that, So now the money wasn't what it is today, and he didn't have a recently signed max contract that still has 4 years on it. So I think it's more than just Doc. I think at this point, moving forward, when your season starts tonight, it would behoove the organization if Daryl Morey was the one who, if in fact they want to continue to try to have him be around enough because he wants to get paid. I think it's Daryl Morey's job to tell him these are the ground rules and take Doc out of it. Doc has to run the team. The decision Doc made the other day was because he thought of the greater good for the group. And he had somebody who was being defiant, quite frankly. So I think it's the combination at this point that, you need your front office with you, and you absolutely need to have a game plan as a group. And I think they do. I think they already know what they're doing.
Good. Most of this, of course, is Ben Simmons' own fault, I would say. But does the Sixers organization bear some responsibility here in their handling of it or not?
I don't think in the part right now, if you want to say that he was coddled along the way, maybe that's part of it. But honestly, Chet, I'm just saying from being around the guy that I think his personality is such. From day one, there was a little bit of, and I'll use the word because it's all I know, arrogance to him. Mm-hmm. And there was also always a feeling that he didn't totally want to be here. And I think the other part of him is, again, it goes back to personality. He's not, I watched, because I do a lot of editing now, and I was watching a documentary on AI. And, just look at somebody's eyes, right? Or when they make a play and it's so good, right? There's a lot of times you see Ben, there's nothing in the eyes. There's standing around, which is okay. I get it that he thinks he can do something in a spurt. But I never get that in the moment, I'm going to go get it, put it on me. I'm that winner. I've never felt it. I know I can look at stats. I know he's a 3-time All-Star. I know where he finished in the Defensive Player of the Year voting. I know all that. But at the end of the day, I also have to take a pulse. Are you a winner or are you not? And I say, no, not when it matters.
You mentioned that, and that's funny because when this all happened, and one of the first things to come out was the phrase, he didn't want to play in front of Philly fans again. And as part of me that always thought that Ben Simmons really didn't want to play in front of Ben Simmons some nights. He passes up dunks. He makes passes. He doesn't shoot nearly as much. He's not a guy. It's like he's almost there because he's getting paid. That's not every night. I mean, obviously you don't rack up triple doubles unless you want to be there. But as soon as he mentioned that phrase, I thought about him not wanting to play in front of himself some nights. Am I misreading that or?
No. And first of all, he flirts with a lot of triple doubles. The number for his 5 years is actually, I mean, it's a good one, but it's not. I think he has 14. If I'm not gonna, it's 12 to 14. But he's the guy who flirts more than he gets. So that would be that. I think he's defiant in that he truly believes that the way he plays the game is at a high level that does not have to be altered. If you looked at Giannis last night, I mean, this is such polar opposites. This guy has added something to his game. Well, he's added something to his game every year that he comes back. And how so that's when I say it comes down to a personality part to this guy.
Why is this going out?
Yeah, so I don't know the part of how he felt in terms of being fragile in the after the postseason or during it. I don't know. I mean, he definitely was experiencing terribleness at the foul line. He was in his third postseason of where he flat out would not shoot in a half court. And he doesn't really shoot in the regular season, but that does not hurt his team, nor does it hurt his stats. So that's the other tricky part to them doing this trade. Somebody is taking a big time risk. If you are a team that is not a playoff team, you'll do it because he'll help you get to the playoffs. And then you might be willing for these next couple of years to be okay building on that. But a team that's a contender doesn't want to touch this guy because how is it going to be any different for you unless you are the one, and it only takes one, as my dad always says, the one that thinks you're going to be the one who changes him. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying there's been a lot of years, there's been enough data changing him and his postseason performances. I wouldn't bank on it for this year, and I'm inheriting a $147 million contract with a guy who's also disgruntled and has shown he doesn't want to change.
It is a messy situation for sure. Let's get away from Ben for a few minutes at least. The Sixers, as we said, tipping off their season tonight. The home opener is Friday night. Assuming we don't have Ben Simmons in the lineup anytime soon, I don't think we ever will. I agree with you. What is the lineup going to look like? I'm going to put the roster up here for those who can see it. It's alphabetical. What's the starting lineup? Who are the key rotation guys this year, D?
Well, tonight is the most important part, which, by the way, the Pelicans don't have Zion. I think that's right. Significant. Brandon Ingram, I think, will play well tonight, but he did miss 3 preseason games with an injury. His was a sore knee.
D, I don't care about them. Tell me about the Sixers roster. The Sixers
the Sixers lineup.
Yeah,
oh, my God.
I'm sorry. There. Come on.
Oh, I can't see that. I have a small screen.
I know.
Sixers, it's easy. It's Tobias, Joel, Danny Green, Seth, and Maxey.
There you go. And who's coming off the bench? Who are the 3 or 4 key guys off the bench? Drummond, who else?
Well, Shake is out because of a sprained ankle. Thibault is back, but we'll see how much his shoulder is bothering him or not. He should be your first guy off the bench. As you mentioned, Drummond is obviously, that to me is a really solid upgrade. And I love Dwight, but I think Drummond will be even better. And then after that, a guy like an Isaiah Joe who had a really good preseason, if he can give you scoring, if he can give you scoring, I see the possibility of him, coming off your bench and giving you rotation minutes there. I think Danny Green's minutes will be lower this year. The guy's, I think, 34. I'll be interested if they put him on Brandon Ingram to start the game. You could give it to Tobias, I guess. I don't know. But that's really where you're going to see the biggest adjustment for this team starting tonight. I mean, you had a no-brainer that if Ben were here, Ben comes out, he's going to guard Brandon Ingram. Right. Instead of automatically being able to do that, you're now, figuring it out, so to speak, and you don't have a guy of his length and capability where he can go 1 through 4. He says 1 through 5. Generally speaking, he doesn't guard the center ever, unless they go to small ball. And I think the other thing that's important is Maxey. There is no backup point guard, so you're going to have either Seth, Tobias, a combination of the two of them when Maxey's not on the floor. And you better hope that Maxey doesn't get in foul trouble, isn't turning the ball over, and can play like 35 minutes. I mean, I think that's what you need tonight out of him. So the one good thing is I think Devontae Graham is going to start on the other side. They're a young group. They're figuring it out. And they have a first-year coach in Willie Green, who I will pull for always. I loved him as a player, except for tonight.
You mentioned Maxey, D. Refresh me last year in the Hawk series. He's got a lot less minutes in the middle of the series. Was he injured and I don't remember it, or was it matchups, or why did he not get on the court that often in those 4 games?
So I would have to pull up the game by games, but I felt like it went back and forth between him and Shake of getting minutes. Shake had that one really good, I want to say it was game 2, where Shake came off the bench. He had only played 30 seconds in the one before. It could have been game 3, but don't. It's one of the two of them. And he scored he had 2 threes in
Yeah.
2 minutes of being on the court. And now Shake gets the more minutes the next time. And I felt like they went back and forth that way with the two of them and then as they get into a real tight series, now they're playing their guys as much as they can and utilizing their bench as little as they could.
And he had a big game 6, so to get them to game 7.
He did. I want to say that was a big lead also, though, right? Was that right or no?
They had a lot of big leads they didn't hold.
Yeah. No, 2 that didn't hold for sure.
Yeah.
2 for sure. But I would say it was more youth, rookies. I'm not going to say that's not a brick wall situation. I think that it becomes less affordable for them to make any mistakes. And when they do, so they can have a really good game. And now you think he's capable of playing 25 minutes. And the coach is like, no, because that's going to expose him because he will be exposed. So, and I think a lot of that has to do with having been around. Doc would say that's what generally happens. Now, would it have? I have no idea, but I think that's where that comes from. The leash gets a lot shorter.
I do find myself coaching differently from the bar than I do from the sideline. So, yeah, I understand.
Dude, what's the outlook now for the Sixers, assuming they don't make a trade anytime soon and they have to go with what they have? Are they like a middle seed, 4th or 5th seed at this point?
Well, I would say their schedule will impact that, right? I think there are some winnable games in these first 5, but there's some that we like somebody chalked up for sure they beat the Knicks. For sure they beat the Knicks. I don't know that that's true. I mean, The Knicks, they consider themselves now back in the playoff picture. They have no intention of going backwards. So a lot obviously lies in that point guard position. I would feel a little better if Shake were available. I don't know when he'll be available. And not because Shake can save the day, but I would like the manpower of 2 as opposed to 1. And if somebody is struggling, the other guy could pick it up for you.
Got it. Oop.
Dean, nobody plays 82 games anymore. The Sixers hadn't had a guy play a full season since 2013. No NBA champion has had a player play 82 games since 2016. So that's out the window. How many games, what's an effective number of games for you in your mind for Joel Embiid to play this year, knowing he's not going to play every night throughout the season?
I would, barring injury, I wouldn't want him to miss more than 15.
Okay.
So 67. But here's the deal. When you have an Andre Drummond who averaged a double-double last year, now I don't know what happened at the end there for him with the Lakers because if I'm not mistaken, I think he did actually get benched in one game. I don't know. I wasn't privy to what happened. But I do know I liked what I saw in the preseason from him. I love his demeanor when you talk to him. This is not an angry person. This is a guy who wants to be here. And I think that this is like maybe the 3rd backup center they've had for Joel. That is an upgrade from the one before. Yeah. So because you have that, I would say to you the number, except for the fact that Joel wants to win the MVP at some point here, because you have to play to win that award. Otherwise, I would say it's a capable position to be in to rest that guy more than not because of having Drummond there. So,
absolutely.
Or maybe what they do, so you get the rest, but he plays the games and he has enough nights where he has big numbers early enough that you can play Drummond bigger minutes and that you're resting him by not sitting him out entire games, but you're sitting him in games.
D, I got to go back to Simmons for just a second. What is most likely to happen now? Will he be traded, do you think, by, say, November 1st, by Thanksgiving? What's most likely to happen, and what kind of return will they get for him?
So the when of it is probably the hardest thing to figure. I mean, I went back from, again, Iverson demanded his trade in season. Ben has asked for his trade a couple of days after they played Game 7. So if you just wipe out that it didn't happen in the offseason and go to now, it took them 2 weeks to trade Iverson from the demand, and they had to send him home from practice 4 days into his demand. So it was like 11 days after that. I feel like you could do something in that 2-week range. I think with Harden, because the season started in December and he, I believe, was traded in January. So that's a little longer than the 2 weeks that Iverson's was. But I think you're going to have to wait this out. It could be a month for sure.
All right, great. Great to see you again, Dee.
You as well. I'll see you both
Enjoy the season.
somewhere down the road.
Absolutely.
Thank you.